the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to win right now. Why not? Aaron Rodgers is not getting any younger. And the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins back in the day in 2019 shocked the world with a very un-Steelers-like move for them to trade a first-round draft choice right in the early parts of the season, way in advance of the trade deadline. If you all remember, back in 2019, the Steelers plucked Minkah Fitzpatrick in just his second season. The former 11th overall pick of the Miami Dolphins played 18 games there, and all of a sudden, see you later, you're a Pittsburgh Steeler. Now Minkah Fitzpatrick is a Miami Dolphin again. And the Steelers, in return, get Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, two guys who are looking for new deals, or at least in the case of Minkah Fitzpatrick, in the case of Jalen Ramsey, a spot willing to pick up the rest of his contract, which maybe the Steelers are willing to do or not. We'll keep an eye on all of that. But Jalen Ramsey, who's under contract through the 2028 season, thanks to a 3-year, $72 million contract extension he signed just last September. Jalen Ramsey is now going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, along with Jonnu Smith, the tight end, who apparently wanted a new deal, and he's got a 1-year, $12 million deal from the Steelers on the spot, according to Drew Rosenhaus's agent. And Jalen Ramsey gets $1.5 million more on top of his salary. He's going to make $26.6 million this year to go to Pittsburgh and lock down that part of the Steelers' defense. There's a pick swap in the 2027 draft, so put a pin in that for Washington, D.C. while we're on the mall on that third day of that draft. Pittsburgh has next year's draft, the 2027 draft. Now, the Steelers send their 5th in that draft and get a 7th back. Put a pin in that. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it is clear what they're up to right now. What they're up to right now is getting at least a playoff win under their belt. It's been 8 years. And what they're trying to do right now is put their eggs in the 2025 basket. Because Aaron Rodgers, as I said, isn't getting any younger. He tells Pat McAfee, this sure feels like it's it. And they now have Jalen Ramsey on the back end of a defense that they, by the way, got Darius Slay as well this offseason. They've still they got Joey Porter Jr. These are their cornerbacks right now. Obviously, Minkah being gone leaves a hole. It's so rare to have this conversation for a trade that involves a 5-time Pro Bowler and 3-time first-team All-Pro in Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 7-time Pro Bowler and a 3-time first-team All-Pro in Jalen Ramsey. Stars on the back end of defenses being swapped for one another, and then Jonnu Smith on top of it, coming off of a very nice season in Miami. And just when you're sitting there thinking, okay, DK Metcalf is there in Pittsburgh, but Calvin Austin the third and Bobby Trees, Robert Woods being the third wide receiver in that 3-wide receiver set, unless my guy from Team 144 national champion in 2024 rookie season wiped out by injury, Roman Wilson, can step forward. You're sitting there, well, who's going to catch the ball from Aaron Rodgers? How about 2 tight ends? Who's going to run the football for Aaron Rodgers? We will see. The Pittsburgh Steelers, as we all know, watched Najee Harris walk because I don't think they were crying a river on that for whatever reason. But Jalen Warren is now the guy, and they drafted Caleb Johnson and hope that he can provide some pop. And you look at the roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers on defense. As I mentioned, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter Jr., Darius Slay at the corners, Alex Highsmith, Patrick Queen, highlighting the linebacker spot. TJ Watt, they're going to sign him. Cam Hayward, I'm sure he likes this. Derek Harmon, who they drafted instead of Shador and anybody else like Jackson Dart to fill a spot on the defensive line. They just improved in their gotta-have-it season with Aaron Rodgers. Now then, the flip side. We'll talk about the Dolphins later on. We're focused on the Steelers right now. With all due respect to Dolphins fans, this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about, turning 41 here, right? Or 42, right? We got a guy in his early 40s here trying to win one last shot. For Mike Tomlin, who hasn't won a playoff game in forever and a day. The flip side. You know how you draft a team sometimes in fantasy, guys? You look at it and you go, this would have been a great team. Like, what am I thinking? This would have been a great team 4 or 5 years ago.
I'd let people know that every year.
Right?
If this had been 2019, team would have been
right.
Great.
One year I drafted Antonio Gates and Chris Johnson and a whole bunch of guys like that. And I'm like, this would have been great 5 years ago, 4 years, 5 years ago. Put it up, Mr. Hoskins. In 2021, and again, we're talking about 4 years ago, Aaron Rodgers was the MVP of the league. Jalen Ramsey was a first-team All-Pro and a Super Bowl champ. And Darius Slay had 3 interceptions, was a Pro Bowler, and 3 defensive touchdowns. And the year before that, DK Metcalf and Jonnu Smith had monster seasons. DK had 10 touchdowns, made a Pro Bowl, and had 1,300 receiving yards. The next year, he had, in 2021, a career year to date, still 12 touchdowns. Jalen won a Super Bowl in 2021. Can these guys uncork those years all at once for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
That was my first reaction, was the Vince Young quote, "Dream Team." 2011 Eagles. Remember the talent they acquired? They started the year 1-4, were 4-8 at one point, and Andy Reid was fired 2 years later. That's how I feel right now thinking about the Steelers.
Well, you're definitely in a wait-and-see mode for the Steelers, as we all know. Yeah. When I was out of the chair a couple weeks ago, you did a Power Less rankings?
Power Less rankings.
And you put the Steelers in your bottom 5.
I had them in the bottom.
I still think that's quite low.
Jonnu Smith, by the way, is better this year or last year than he was.
I know.
Yeah, but Jonnu Smith with Arthur Smith has yet to go over 600 yards.
Well, this is the point here, okay? Arthur knows him.
But he doesn't use him.
Well, he had him at a different time of his career. How does that sound? Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith are 2 terrific tight ends together. And
they're not great run blockers.
I understand this.
Pass blockers.
I understand. You want Aaron Rodgers to have options here. Now, obviously, having a run game that keeps the pass rush off of him is the first order of business. But I'm just going to return to what I said last week when Rodgers said this is his last year, and when Rodgers signed with the Steelers earlier this month. Last year and 2 years ago, he was brought to a Jets team to say, change the culture, help out the head coach who's on a slippery slope, and show everybody how to win. And you're a savior. This time around, obviously they needed him. They put all their eggs in the basket after Stafford maybe said no, and Sam Darnold said, I'm going to Seattle. And, Justin Fields wasn't an option, and clearly they were done with Russ. He's coming to Pittsburgh to fit into the system with Mike Tomlin. I'm now part of your world. Let me help part of your world, but it's your world. I'm just Aaron Rodgers trying to win one more Super Bowl with you guys. And he looked around the room, I'm sure, when he first came to the Jets, and he's like, some of these guys I'm trying to lead, if you put their ages together, they might just be slightly older than me. Or I could be their father. You look at this locker room, they are filled with lion-hearted veterans having a couple last shots at winning it all. And Rodgers doesn't have to say a word to Cam Hayward or TJ Watt or Jalen Ramsey, just to name 3 on defense. He doesn't say a word to him.
True.
He just has to come to work and be Aaron Rodgers as best he can from the last 4 games of last year. It is set up in a much better way for him to win than it was when he was with the Jets. And you could say that about his Achilles tendon as well, which one would think, being just 2 years old, is better than the 39-year-old one, a 38-year-old one he took on the field on that first Monday night for the Jets carrying the flag. You know, again, what's going to happen when rubber meets the road? Clearly, their schedule is insanely tough. Okay? Clearly. But there are winnable games with these veterans that are out there. You know, right now, okay, Jalen Ramsey, you take Garrett Wilson. Let's see what Justin Fields is going to do. If there's any team that knows what Justin Fields is thinking about and how it's possible to beat him, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's their first opponent. Then they get Seattle coming in their house. I mean, these are 2 winnable games for them. Could they be losable games for them? Absolutely. Pittsburgh Steelers in week 3 at New England, and then they have a Monday, they've got a game in Ireland against Minnesota before a bye. I'm hearing you, like, Jalen, take Justin Jefferson. While we eat our Lucky Charms. I'm sorry, that was my Irish analogy. You know what I mean?
You know what I do like? I don't want to be so negative on Pittsburgh. You know what I do like? They're doing something. So many times we talk about the Steelers heading into the draft. Right. They have 7 picks, and it's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounders.
They are doing something
totally out of character.
Yes, sir.
Like the definition of insanity, right? Same thing over and over, expect different results.
Right.
They are not doing that route. They are going, we are making moves, we are going to be aggressive, and we're going to at least try. And I really respect that, because sitting back on their heels and doing nothing, that's gotten them nowhere in the last 8 seasons.
And if you look at their schedule one more time, when we were going through it about the must-see TV stuff, and you know, their division schedule always is must-see. And there's primetime games coming up in week 7 at Cincinnati. And then, of course, the mother load with Rodgers taking on the Packers in week 8. Of the games that we were like, oh, okay. Week 15, home on a Monday night against the Dolphins. Well, that one just got a little bit more must see. I mean, this is just going to be incredible to watch this journey and see how it does actually play out. But right now, I kind of dig what the Steelers have done. Rodgers, I think, is set up better in terms of his own mindset and also what's being asked of him. Obviously, it's the same thing being asked of him now than he was with the Jets. Come and make us a winner, please. Put us in the playoffs, win a playoff game, and teach the young kid behind you how to play quarterback. And instead, his Achilles popped. The young kid who wasn't ready, clearly, had to get out there. The whole thing fell to crap. He comes back, and it wasn't any good because the savior didn't materialize. And, of course, people point the finger at number 8 in Rodgers. Now he's coming in. Yes, the end goal is get to the playoffs. Let's win a playoff game. But now with him needing to fight Father Time and sands through the hourglass, it's like, let's win a Super Bowl. And the Steelers are doing what they can right now. June 30th, they just acquired Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith and committed a lot of cash in the process. By the way, Minkah makes $15.5 million this year. So if you want to ask about what the offsets are, they're taking in 26 and popping off 15. So if you're doing the math, they do play different positions, obviously, but it's like 10, 11 million more out of the pocket. And then Jonnu, another 12. So that's what's up. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.